Good morning, everyone. We are so delighted and excited at what's going to be happening here today. And I'm so glad to welcome everyone to this year's International Widows Day live event organized by the Rose of Sharon Foundation. As some of you will already know, the 23rd of June of every year is set aside by the United Nations, dedicated to celebrating widows worldwide, and to also draw attention to their peculiar challenges and experiences, to inform changes in behavior towards widows and their children, and to inform social legal reforms to protect the rights of widows for the long term. So today, the Rose of Sharon Foundation is so excited and happy to join the world all over to celebrate widows today. We're also using this live event as a channel of communication to say to the world that there are certain social legal issues that widows are undergoing, specifically in Nigeria, that require reforms. But before we proceed, please permit me to call on my colleague, Mr. Olorotosi Taiwo, to give us an opening prayer. Thank you.
All right, please let us pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for this time. We thank you for this beautiful day that you are giving us opportunity to celebrate our widows across the world. We thank you for the grace that you have granted unto them. We thank you for the foundation. We thank you for the empowerment. We thank you for the resources you have made available to support our widows. We give you all the praise in Jesus' name. Lord, we ask this morning that you grant us a productive meeting. We ask that the meeting will be smooth. We ask, Lord, that you impact our lives and the lives of everyone joining us for this meeting today in the name of Jesus. We ask that you help the stakeholders, the policymaker, to see the need to provide stronger protection for our widows across the globe in the name of Jesus. Thank you, Heavenly Father. In Jesus' precious name, we have prayed. Amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Taiwo. We give God all the glory. Our theme for this year's International Widows Day is engaging social legal strategies for the protection of widows' rights. This theme was informed by our current realities here in Nigeria regarding the rights of widows, and also informed by issues that are ongoing regarding the available laws for the protection of widows' rights in Nigeria. In many communities in Nigeria, widows undergo so many things They face so many peculiar experiences and challenges that are not good. In many communities in Nigeria, for instance, when a woman loses her husband, one of the major things that happens is she's accused of being responsible for his death. So the woman is made to go through certain communal rights that are traditional. Take, for instance, she's made to wail extensively beyond her capacity. She is deprived of her personal liberty. She's isolated and made to sit at a corner for many days, denied the ability to take a bath and even change her clothing. Many times, widows in Nigeria are denied access to their children. They are deprived of the properties which are forcefully taken away from them. These rights extend onto violence, which are sometimes physical violence, as well as emotional, psychological, and emotional abuse. These practices have continued over the years, despite the fact that we have a beautiful constitution. We have the Nigerian Constitution of 1999 as amended, which provides and protects the fundamental human rights of every Nigerian, irrespective of your status, your gender, or whoever you are. Although we acknowledge and commend the efforts of government in producing a specific law. This is called the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act that came into effect in 2015. A section of that act, the act is normally popularly referred to as the VAP Act. In section 15, the VAP Act criminalizes the practices that are harmful to the well-being and development of widows. So we commend that act, but we know that in practice and in truth, our laws in Nigeria do not provide comprehensive protection coverage for our widows and their children. And so that is what we are here to discuss today in celebration of this year's International Widows Day. With me here are two seasoned speakers, renowned lawyers, who are going to be bringing to fore and provide an expose of our team today. And the discussion, I believe and hope that it would spur reforms in policy making and in laws to provide protection coverage that is extensive and holistic and captures the entire experiences and peculiar challenges that widows undergo in Nigeria. But before we proceed and before I introduce our speakers, you also permit me again to call on our esteemed board member, Mrs. Ayodeji Mebokwe, to give us an opening remark.
Good morning, everybody. I'm excited to be here today, excited to be part of this celebration, excited that recognition is given to this set of people who are often marginalized and underserved. Let me start by paying tribute to the founder of the Rose of Sharon Foundation, Apostle Folorunsho Alakija, who has consistently and concertedly been all about the welfare of widows, especially here in Nigeria. Her efforts, her tenacity, her concern, and her passion for them is highly worthy of commendation. I would also want to acknowledge the strong support of members of the Board of Trustees of the Rose of Sharon Foundation. Thank you for all your support over the years. And I must also mention the contribution of the staff of the foundation, led by Dr. Bowie, who is the country manager. To hear her talk passionately about why we are gathered here today shows you how dedicated not just the founder is, but everyone who is part of her team. I am excited that we have two women of worth, women who have been able to prove that they also are interested in the welfare and well-being of widows. Today, we're going to hear them share their perspective and talk about different legal support systems that are in place that we have not been able to take advantage of. And like Dr. Bowie said, we hope that at the end of the day, there will be more voice, more strength, and more enforcement given to supporting widows and helping them to be able to navigate the murky waters of widowhood. Like you well know, our society is a patriarchal one, and little wonder that women are often subjugated to such horrific practices. At the end of today, I really do hope that we'll be able to achieve the type of support that we're looking forward to, not just from government, but from well-meaning individuals who will be ready to follow the path that our apostle, Folorunsho Alakija, has shown us. And so, welcome once again. And I am very certain that at the end of today, we will all be glad. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mrs. Ayodeji Mebukwe, for that wonderful opening remark. Okay, so to proceed, and before I welcome our first speaker, I would like to say that we have two of our widow beneficiaries here with us today, who are going to briefly, in 5 minutes each, share their experiences. I would like to call on the first person, and that is Mrs. Ifogali Uyoyo, to give us her experience sharing in 5 minutes.
Good morning, everybody. I want to appreciate this day. I'm very excited. I'm so happy to be part of this occasion. My name is Yoyo Ifogale. It happened 2005 when I lost my husband. It was hell. I had 3 children, the age of 5, 3, and 1 year and 3 months. And it happened so that I cannot even understand. We went for a journey and my husband didn't come back. He died through armed robbery, strange bullets. And it was so frustrating that when I was looking at, I thought I have people behind me, but it was frustrating. They say I should drop the children, that I'm very young, I should go and remarry. But I just lost my husband. I can't leave my children. It's so traumatic that I can't leave my children. So they told me when I get tired, I will bring them, and no fund to frustrate me. After, for a long time, I didn't even know they have any intention. We have properties. My husband had properties. And unknowingly to me, I gave all to them. But they didn't know where those properties is, my husband's properties is. So one of my friends came and said, you don't know what is going on. These children, these children they don't have any plan for you. So I was like, no, these people, these are my husband people. She said, no. She gave me phone, say, call and find out what are their opinion. So I just called my father-in-law and told him that, Father, after this, I don't know what to do again. He said, well, I have plans. I want to share the children. Then you should go on, you can go and marry, you're very young. Then I said, no. Say, these children, I can't go out of them. I just lost my husband. So he said, when I get tired, I will bring them to frustrate me. But God was there for me. The Rose of Sharon came in. support this me. I was so frustrated for years. It was 2005. So I suffered this for almost 4 years before help come from somewhere. Somebody that know the foundation saw me and look, as this is frustrating. I almost commit suicide, even with the children, because I don't think anybody can take care of them. I was frustrated. So at that point, God sent a woman to me. The woman is working with Rose of Sharon Foundation, and she said, my madam is doing a program helping widow. So I brought the death certificate of my husband and the children birth certificate, and they gave it to them, and I had scholarship. Today, I fought. I'm here today. The children, I have 2 graduates from the foundation. God is so faithful for us. He gave Mama this vision, Mommy Alakija, for this support is a wonderful calling. And she's so faithful to this call that the first day she met me, she embraced me. I've never seen such love after the death of my husband. And she has been there. She brings life back to me. Today I have 2 graduates. Many widows are suffering. They are neglected. They are frustrated. I know what I passed through. I almost commit suicide, and these children's future could have been wanted. But thank God for the foundation who brought me out and give me this success story. I have 2 graduates today. My first daughter from Delta State University, she read sociology. The second one, science lab tech. They are graduates from the university. And my son is 300 level Federal University of Petroleum, reading petroleum engineering. I just want to thank God for this vision, which Mama has put in. I want to beg the media to help widows who are suffering, who have been battered, who don't know their rights, to come. They should have a foundation that will help them, a solid one to help this widow heart, a solid ground that any widow who they want to take up their children, there should be a backup for them so that they will have stay. If not for this foundation, I don't know the future of these children. Look at them today. They are great success. And me, I've already said, these children you will impart in this nation. I want to say thank you to the foundation, Rose of Sharon Foundation. You are great, you are wonderful. I cannot thank you enough for this calling. You are my success story. In fact, apart from the scholarship, they provide a loan without interest. I know how many times I collected loan to start a business and to pay up. It was hell because it's only one stream of income. But yet they still give me without collecting loan. I know how many times. But today is still on. I just want to thank everyone who has been part of this, vision. May God bless you and may God keep you and empower you in the name of Jesus. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ifogale Yoyo, for sharing your experience with us and with the world. Like she mentioned, the Rose of Sharon Foundation has been providing so many services to thousands of widows since our commencement. The foundation was launched in May of 2008. And incidentally, today we are celebrating our 15th anniversary of the foundation. We are hoping that what we've been doing for the past 15 years in taking care of the well-being and the development of this vulnerable population in our society, that today we will have policymakers join us to do their bit by providing stronger laws that are specific to the peculiar challenges of widowhood and that protect them better in the society. To proceed, I would like to present our first speaker, and I will start by projecting her profile.
People down you. It's a very much. People down you. It's a very much.
Our first speaker today is Barrister Agnes Fenyinwa Opalako. She is the head parliamentary and advocacy of the International Federation of Women Lawyers, Lagos chapter. Barrister Fenyinwa Agnes Opalako. Our first speaker today is Barrister with 23 years post-call experience. She is the head born and raised in the vibrant city and advocacy of Port Harcourt of the International Federation of Women Lawyers, Lagos chapter. Barrister embarked on her educational career. Our first speaker today attained at the UPS Barrister Primary School with 23 years. And she went on experience to pursue her secondary education and raised in the vibrant city and advocacy of Port Harcourt of the International Federation of Women Lawyers, Lagos chapter. Even by her long embarked on her educational career, our first speaker today attained at the UPS Barrister Primary School with 23 years to study law, and she went on to successfully pursue her secondary education study at the vibrant city and advocacy of Port Harcourt of the International Federation of Women Lawyers, subsequently proceeded to the Even by her long embarked on her educational career, our first speaker today attained at the UPS Barrister Primary School with 23 years to study law, and she went on to successfully pursue her secondary education. Currently serves on of the International Federation specializing in corporate and property subsequently consultation. Even by her long embarked on her member of the Nigerian Bar Association, our speaker today attained at the UPS Barrister and as well as the years studied law, and she went on to successfully pursue her secondary education. Currently serves as the head of the International Federation specializing in corporate and property subsidiary consultation. Even by her long embarked on her member of the Nigerian Bar Association, our speaker today attained at the UPS Barrister and today as well as the years going to be speaking to us. She went on to successfully pursue her secondary education. Currently serves as the head of the International Federation specializing in corporate and property subsidiary consultation. Even by her long embarked on her member of the Nigerian Bar Association, our speaker today attained at the UPS Barrister and today as well as the years going to be speaking to us. She went on to successfully pursue her secondary education. Currently serves as the head of the International Federation specializing in corporate and property subsidiary consultation. Even by her long embarked on her member of the Nigerian Bar Association, our speaker today attained at the UPS Barrister and today as well as the years going to be speaking to us. She went on to successfully pursue her secondary education. Currently serves as the head of the International.
Mrs. Dr. Bowe for that brief introduction. Thank you so much for that brief introduction. She has earlier said, I am Mrs. Ifeanyiwa Agnes Okbalako. First, I want to thank ladies and gentlemen here present, as well as the online viewers. I am here as a member of International Federation of Women Lawyers. It's an acronym known as FIDA, which in Latin is International Federacional de Abogadas, which in English means International Federation of Women Lawyers. I am here on a representative capacity of our chairperson, Mrs. Chinwe Efobi, who is unavoidably absent. It is no news that every 23rd of June is set aside as a World Widows Day. We all know when the word widow is being used, there's a symbol or an icon that comes to mind. What readily comes to the mind of everyone is a woman in anguish, in pain. We can't look away from that fact. Now, prior to the advent of VAP, we all know, just as the country chairperson has earlier said, women were subjected to untold hardship. Women were seen as horse bought off the heifer stall. They are in fact at a point seen as an article in the house. They are subject of domestic violence. They are subject to so many untold and inhuman treatments. This has led to a lot of persons thinking of a way out for women, thinking of a way to abate such acts. People have prophesized ideas, and for instance, International Federation like FIDA has thought of this fact, and we know our aim and some of our goals is protection, preservation, and promoting the affairs of women and children. Likewise, so many other organizations. We all know time, in this modern time, so many spouses, especially women, have declared their husbands dead due to the fact that they cannot provide for them financially or providing the basic amenities. That is not the type of death we are referring to. So I would want to, for the purposes of this presentation, look at some of the legal aspects which will assist us in protecting the rights of widows. And one of those acts, in terms of when it comes to, due to discussions internationally and nationally, Nigeria in particular came up with the idea of the VAP Act, Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, which was signed in 2015 during the administration of the former president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. It was signed into law. So the whole aim of that law, that act, is to preclude inhuman treatment meted against persons generally. But for the purpose of this presentation, we are looking at the widows as a focal point. In looking at the widows, we rule out the fact that widows are also an integral part of human beings. They are also human beings, which is being captured in the VAP Act. Now, there are some laws propounded by the VAP Act, which are being protected. Now, it's also worth knowing that the VAP Act was enacted in Abuja, and by virtue of that fact, it applies only to Abuja. But by virtue of adoption of that same act, by various states. That is domestication of those laws. Various states adopted it, and to date they are implementing it. We have to look at briefly some of the states that have implemented the VAP Act. We're looking, for instance, we have the FCT, we have Abia State, we have Adamawa, Akwa Ibom, we have Anambra, Bauchi, Bayelsa, Benue, Borno, Cross River, Delta, Edo, Ekiti, Enugu, Gombe, Imo, Jigawa, Kaduna, Kano, Katsina, Kebbi, Kogi, Kwara, Nasarawa, Niger, Ogun, Ondo, Osun, Oyo, Plateau, Rivers. Lagos and Ekiti are the only states which did not domesticate the VAP Act, but they have, like in Ekiti, they have the Gender-Based Violence Amendment Act 2019, while that of Lagos has that of Violence Against Persons, which they enacted in 2007. It's also worthy to note that the VAP Act are divided into parts. It has part 1, the offenses. Part 2, it has the jurisdiction of courts. 3, it has the service providers. 4, it has the regulatory bodies. The consequential amendment, which is the 5th part. It also has the interpretation. For the purposes of this presentation and for paucity of time, we should narrow, I will narrow my presentation on the issue of offenses on part 1, which talks of offenses, the jurisdiction of courts, service providers, regulatory body. By virtue of Section 27 of the VAP Act, the High Court of FCT has jurisdiction to entertain matters that arises from the VAP Act or to grant application pursuant to that said act. It's also believed that by virtue of domestication, the state high courts of various states also have that right to do so. Under the VAP Act, the complainant in person, including the police, the protection officer, accredited service providers, counselors, health service providers, social workers are persons that are service providers when it comes to the VAP Act. Then the regulatory body that readily comes to mind is the NAPTIP, which is the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, that are saddled with the responsibility of tackling this menace. Now let's look at some of the offenses. Section 15 of the offense, the VAP Act, prohibits an act by a person subjecting widows to harmful traditional practices. In this section, the word harmful traditional practices is not being specified. It's clear that we know that law should be in black and white. The act itself, which constitutes the harmful traditional practices, should be specifically mentioned, because I think people involved in this act are not, in my view, though some are learned, some may not really know. So there is the need to itemize those acts which constitute those traditional harmful practices. Then we look at Section 13, which provides for an offense by a person who forcefully isolates or operates another from, or separates another from family and friends, liable to punishment for maximum of 6 months or 100,000 naira fine or both. We know as a matter of fact that these acts are acts that are prevalent or takes place in a setting where where we have widows. Widows in most cases, just as the first person who spoke on her ordeal said her children were about to be taken away from her. So these are all situations that are prevalent in an atmosphere of widowhood. They are subjected to untold, degrading, inhuman treatment. Then we look at section 13, which provides for an offense by a person who forcefully isolates, that I've taken that. Section 10 prohibits a person from depriving another of personal liberty. The law imposes maximum of 2 years or 500,000 naira fine or both. We all know this is also an act which is prevalent in widowhood atmosphere. So these are all sections that constitute an offense. Whoever that carries out any of these acts have their punitive measures. And of course, you know that in a country or in a setting, wherever, where an act is criminalized or where one comports him or herself in a manner that is not worthy of emulation, there should be punitive measures and there should be institutions that will be responsible for curbing such acts to preclude others from taking similar steps. So I think this is one of the steps where the VAP has come in, and there is need for widows to take advantage of these sections to speak out in situations where they are faced with this inhuman treatment. Now, going forward, briefly, in order to grant time to the second speaker, there's what they call thinking outside the box. And I am looking at the caption which says the social legal remedies. It is crystal clear that the VAP Act is not total when it comes to solution to their entire problems. Because when you look at the VAP Act, it is only section 15 that captures the word widow. It is not exhaustive. That is why there will be continuous discussions, cross-fertilization of ideas on the way forward. Because it's usually said a journey of 100 miles starts by one step. We have commenced that step, and it will continue in that progression until we get there. We are yet to get there. But I am looking at in this acts being faced by widows, there is need for us to do the following. Taking this fight to the rural area. I think that is the basics. We'll take it to, because most discussions, meetings take place in the urban cities, or those harmful traditional practices go on in the rural setting. As we are gathered here today, people in the rural area do not know that today, the 23rd of June of every year, is set aside for the World Widows Day. So there should be a sensitization to that effect, carrying out the propagation, the ministry, so to speak, to the rural area. We look out on market days, probably in a local setting. We go there, propagate, tell them what it is all about, because as we are gathered here today, 1,001 are facing this act. They are facing this inhuman treatment right now as we speak. So by the time we get to those villages, those rural areas who do not know what is that the act that is being meted against them is inhuman and is against the law. By the time we get there, you find out that a lot of them will be willing to speak. A lot of them will be willing to open up to us. But in doing so, I think we have to take them outside that vicinity, because they have seen it as a practice that is prevalent in the society. It has happened to Mrs. ABC. So it is not news happening to Mrs. B. So in that regard, you have to carry it down to them. So that is one of the angles. Then two, there should be a help desk in various rural areas that will simply look at the progression of events in those rural settings. One, where a person, we don't need to wait until the acts of widowhood, those evil acts are meted against them before we take corrective measures. I think there is need for us to also take preventive measures in fighting this menace. Then specifically, I've mentioned that the strategies we are going to identify, the strategy of effective policing and effective laws propagated in order to take the widows out of these harmful practices. The cause of this act of the widows being subjected to this act, we all know, are traditional in nature. They believe that it is an act that's been handed over to them by their fathers, their forefathers, and so it is something that should be allowed to linger and unstoppable. But for the policymakers, I would want to advise the policymakers, it is not only about making laws. We all know when it comes to making laws, we could make laws from dusk to dawn, but without implementation, there will be a problem. So institutions should be set up, like we have the police that are a strong institution when it comes to the issue of evil acts meted against widows. I think those institutions should be properly funded to attack, to be able to handle this issue of widows and their problems. I think with this little I've presented, our widows will give a sigh of relief if the policymakers swing into action and ensure that things are being done the right way. Because there is no human on earth that is not being produced by a woman. Even men have not just sleepless nights on issues that concerns widow. And I can vividly remember the lyrics of the words of Sayo Ebenezer Obey, which says, if you see a woman, make you do better, oh. If you do better, oh, it go better for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Barrister Agnes Ifeyinwa Opalako, for that presentation. I know a lot of people are listening all over the world. So many people who are listening are widows, some are decision and policy makers, some are leaders in their own rights and capacities. We are hoping that we're going to have a comprehensive collaboration going forward in doing whatever we can in our own capacity and with the portfolio that we currently have to ensure that widows in our society and their children as well are treated like human beings and allowed access to basic needs and amenities, and also to ensure that there is a comprehensive legal protection for them. Mrs. Opalako talked about the VAPP Act, Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, which is a national legislation. She mentioned that for states to apply the laws, it has to be domesticated in each state. She went ahead to mention the number of states who have done that as we speak. She also mentioned a few sections of the VAP Act that can be taken advantage of by lawyers to defend the rights of widows, widows whose rights have been violated in whatever respect. We also know that we have the Nigerian Constitution as well that can also be taken advantage of. And then she mentioned that, talked about the widowhood gender desk in different communities. That is great, that's awesome. Because if we have this in the villages, Or let's take, for instance, in every local government, where widows can freely walk into, lay their complaints, and then their issues can be taken up immediately by free legal support, pro bono services. Then I think would go a long way supporting our widows. Thank you very much once again, Ma. God bless you. To proceed with today's program, we would like to call our second widow beneficiary, who is ready to give us her own experience of what she went through when she lost her dear husband, and how life has been for her since she met the Rose of Sharon Foundation. I'd like to call on Mrs. Hussainat Aiwo to give us her own perspective.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm excited to be part of this program. My name is Mrs. Ashiro Hussainat Aiwo. It was started 2009. I lost my husband July 4, 2009. He traveled to the village, was assassinated. And I was called that, he has been killed. That was what I had. I traveled to Ijebu-Ode without wearing slippers. For good 2 months, I was unable to sleep. It comes to a stage, they wanted to carry me to psychiatric hospital. I have 4 children, 4 boys, with a baby of 4 months at hand. It was not easy. It was not easy at all. I couldn't see. I don't know where to start from. I don't know where to go to. Nobody to support. I was naked. I'm a civil servant. How much the civil servant is collecting to take care of 4 children? But when I made the foundation, before that, family problems started. They are calling me, come here, the family want to see you. They started threatening me up and down. But with God, all things are possible. When I made the foundation, 2010, so I still have hope. I still have hope. I'm using this opportunity to appreciate Mama Alakija. God will continue to be with you, ma. God will continue to bless you. You will never go down. You will not know sorrow. You will not know shame for the rest of your life in Jesus' name. By the time I met Rose of Sharon Foundation, my mind was coming down. I have hope. I have hope. I was calling my children. Every day, my children used to pray for Mama. Every day. The foundation sponsored me. Today, I'm a member of Association of National Accountants of Nigeria. My children are doing well. The one has graduated. The third one wanted to write a last exam. He's studying law in a private university at Ibadan. Mama is sponsoring him. I have one in JS3. The second one is defended this project yesterday at University of Lagos. To God be that glory. I'm using this opportunity to demand for stronger protection for widows, because what widows are going through is not an easy task. When it started like this, you will see embarrassment from up and down. Those people that are praising you before, they will start to mess you up. Mama have been doing well. Mama opened a loan for widows. People are collecting loan without interest. Mama, God will continue to bless you. I'm using this opportunity to pray for all the entire members of Rose of Sharon. God will continue to protect you. God will continue to bless you all. You will not know sorrow. You will not know shame. My life has changed. I don't know that I can become somebody in life, but today I thank God. I give God the glory. This is my story. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Husenat Taiwo, sharing your experience, and amen to your wonderful prayer for the foundation. It's interesting to hear how women struggle in this part of the world when they lose their husband, especially for women who lack economic power and women who are lightly educated. It's terrible. We are happy to be doing what we are doing at Rose of Sharon Foundation because it's seriously dehumanizing to forcefully shave a woman's hair and you call it tradition because she lost her husband, or to forcefully take away her property you do not know how she struggled with her husband to acquire, or to push her out to the streets with her young children. Is terrible. So we're using this avenue to call on well-meaning Nigerians to join the Rose of Sharon Foundation, collaborate, partner to provide value for this vulnerable population in our society. Wherever you are, you turn to the right, you turn to the left, you must find the widow who's going through one thing or the other. Speak up, defend them. Because of the dehumanizing treatment widows undergo in Nigeria, they tend to become timid and fearful. When they tell you their experiences, it's amazing, it's crazy. And you're wondering, who are the people participating in all this? You find them in our villages, you find them in our communities, you find them in our local governments, you find them in our states. And as we speak, it's still happening. So what we're saying today is, we need stronger parameters. We need stronger structures, social legal protection. Those that are comprehensive, holistic enough to protect our widows. To proceed with today's program, I'd like to call upon our second speaker, and I'll start to do that by presenting her profile. Need stronger parameters. We need stronger structures, social legal protection. Our second speaker, those that are comprehensive, holistic enough to protect our widows. To proceed, is a seasoned, well-versed and well-rounded legal practitioner who has been in legal practice by presenting her profile. 35 of which she was in public service, and 4 out of which needs stronger at the apex of her career. We need stronger as the Solicitor General, legal protection. Second speaker, those that are comprehensive, holistic enough to protect our widows. He is a leading authority, is a seasoned, well-versed and well-rounded, and a highly sought after who has been in legal practice in the area of commercial law practice. administration which estate was enforcement of laws, and 4 out of which Strololo has operated as the highest level of as the Solicitor General, over 400 speaker, the permanent comprehensive under her ministry. He was responsible for the establishment and facilitation of a well-versed and well-rounded and a highly sought-after who have been in legal practice in the area of. He has the privilege of working in several administrations which was in enforcement of laws, and 4 directorate out of which Strololo has operated as Solicitor General, over 400 speaker, the permanent committee, has been involved in several complex and high-level corruption protection. He was responsible for the establishment and facilitation also administered the estates of well-rounded and highly sought-after who have been attendant to the affairs of estate. He has the privilege of working in several administrations with children and other enforcement of laws. And 4 prosecuted cases on behalf of the Administrator General of Strololo has operated as legal administrator, mediated, has been involved in several complex and high-level corruption protection. He was responsible for the establishment and facilitation also administered the estate of well-rounded and highly sought-after who have been attendant to the Lagos State Superior. He has the privilege of working in several administrations with member and other administration review committee. Prosecuted cases member of the Committee on Legal Excellence and Operation Management, administrator, member, standing committee, Lagos State mediated, Committee on Lagos State Government, involved in several complex and high-level member, independent advisory,
for inviting me to be part of the celebration. As I've been told, my topic is effective approaches for social protection and inclusion for widows. Widows. It's interesting that even in biblical times, God was so concerned about the widows. Until date, we are still talking about widows. There's an occurrence in a woman's life, which is rather sad, and it's unwanted, that upon its happening, it feels as if the woman's life is upside down. This is not because of just the loss of her husband, but also the mere thought of surviving as a widow in Nigeria. The fundamental human rights of widows have been trampled upon and their dignity degraded in the name of cultural practices. We all know what a widow or who a widow is. A widow is somebody who has lost her spouse to the cold hands of death. The pain and trauma that comes with this is quite overwhelming. And as such a woman,
we will be so depressed. In Nigeria, however, this is sadly the beginning of our miseries. Nigeria is a multi-ethnic society with various customs, traditions, and cultural usages. And how a widow is treated under these various customs are different. They're similar to an extent that the widow is sufficiently degraded, dehumanized, denounced, and defaced in contravention of her rights as entrenched in the 1999 Nigerian Constitution as amended, and many other international treaties. Women are particularly vulnerable class in the society, and they're excluded from social protections accruable to other women. So if we say they're excluded, what does it mean to be included? Inclusion means that you are in an environment in which all individuals are treated fairly and respectfully. You are valued for your distinctive skills, experiences, and perceptions, have equal access and opportunities. Then you also have inclusion also protects equal access and opportunity and removes barriers and discrimination. So everyone is free to share their abilities, gifts, and talents, and everyone can participate and thrive under the law. It's a key component for achieving justice for women, particularly for widows. Despite progress in recent years, widows still continue to face significant barriers in many areas. This not only has negative effects on them, but also on their children, even the community and the society. Widows have special needs because they go through a lot from their husband, family, the society, and the community as a whole. Widowhood is often the beginning of lifelong oppression and misery for the widow. This paper will be examining common cultural practices and effective ways of safeguarding the fundamental human rights of widows and how to uphold them. So we'll first talk about why do we have social protection for widows? Widowhood itself is an unpleasant experience. This experience is compounded by inhuman acts that widows are subjected to as a result of untold hardship and maltreatment by their in-laws and by the society. Widows are subjected to some acts for which they require social protection. So I'll go through some of these acts. Economic and dehumanizing acts. The widows are poor and neglected by people who are morally and obliged to give them succor and financial support, maltreatment by their in-laws. They are emotionally dehumanized and morally. Widows are subjected to some who want for which they require social support them. So I'll go through some of these acts. So widows, because of this, dehumanizing, they face extreme poverty. The widows are poor and neglected, discrimination and dehumanizing treatment, and obliged to give them deprived of their social security and financial support, maltreatment by their in-laws. Their children socially are isolated and morally. Widows are subjected to some who want for which they require social support them. Psychologists, so I'll go through traumatized and at times without inheriting any property. So widows, because of this, also they face extreme poverty. The widows are poor and neglected, discrimination and dehumanizing treatment, and obliged to give them deprived of their social security and financial support, maltreatment by their in-laws. Their children socially are isolated and morally. Widows are subjected to some who want for which they require social support them. health is affected from because of harmful widows practices. So widows, because of this, also they face extreme poverty. Widows are mentally unstable, discrimination, and prone to and permanent loss of deprived of their social security. And some people affected by maltreatment by their in-laws. Children's of this way, widows are subjected to who want for which they require social. Also, elsewise, they get diseases affected because at times they are told to drink water because of this. Also, is being used to burn the corpse of their husband. Mentally unstable, discrimination, widows prone to health issues and permanent such as also their social which they never had. Some people affected by maltreatment by their in-laws. Children, they also social isolated. Widows are subjected to who want interesting. Also, elsewise, they get affected because at times they are covered in drinking. So also when they are married, most of their corpse of their husband. Mentally unstable, discrimination, widows leave the husband permanent such as also most of these people they never had because they don't want to they also socially widows are subjected to interesting. Also elsewise they get affected because at times they covered in withdraw. Also when they are married, most of the corpse of their husband. Mentally unstable, widows leave the husband permanent such as most of these people they never find they don't want to they also socially widows are subjected to friends. Interesting. Finally, also elsewhere they get and highly because at times they covered and also when they are married, most of the corpse of their husband. Mentally unstable, they never find they don't want to of her husband. They also socially widows are dignity. Finally, also elsewhere they get also when they are married, most of the corpse of their husband. Mentally unstable, and most times they never find they don't want to. So she's stripped of all this. They also socially there's also the health abundant dignity. Finally, also elsewhere they get also when they are married to take care of their children and themselves and most times so she's stripped of all this. There's also the health abundant dignity. Finally, also elsewhere they get to take care of their children and themselves so she's stripped of all this. There's also the health abundant dignity. Finally, also elsewhere they get to take care of their children and themselves so she's stripped of all this. There's also the health abundant dignity. Finally, also elsewhere they get some of you are going to take care of their children the limit to how the widow's education, children's organization, there's also the health some of you are going to take care of children and the limit to how much I the widow's education, child organization, some of these the limit to how much the widow's education, child organization, nature of our relationship, some of these most times some of these the man under the customary law that we have for under the customary law that we have property. Instead, she is inherited without relative assistance. So we have to trade in grand price for her. Her situation can even be when her husband is well married from Nigeria or something. Cases. Like instead, she is inherited without relative assistance. So the abolition of the grand price for her. Abolition can even be when her husband is and then well married from Nigeria or something. Extend to their wife. Instead, she is inherited without relative assistance. So the abolition of the grand price for her. Abolition can even be when her husband is and then well married from Nigeria or extend to their wife. Instead, she is inherited extend to their wife. Instead, she is extend to their wife. Instead, she said that she had been we have what we call social cleansing. And this is, in most cases, the widow's brother go further apart from inheriting her. They want to have personal relationship, sexual relationship with her. And when she says no, this becomes a problem. Sometimes it's not just even the brother-in-laws. They are forced to have sexual relationship with their brother-in-laws, their father-in-laws, all in the name of sexual cleansing. And what is this sexual cleansing? Sexual cleansing is supposed to be part of transition process for widows to become eligible to remarry after the death of their husbands. This ritual is conducted to cleanse the widow of evil spirits resulting from the death of her husband. Ritual cleansing demands the widow to have sexual relationship with another man, like I said, usually her husband's, late husband's brother or even father-in-law. This ritual cleansing is a taboo. It should be taboo because I don't know how a brother-in-law or father-in-law should think having sex with his daughter-in-law or his sister-in-law would clear any evil spirits. And this is part of the harmful practices or disgusting practices that women go through. Also, there's also the issue of health. In some cases, they are accused of being carriers of disease or evil spirits. And so because of this, they have to go through ritual cleansing, which entails sex or bodily scarring that can be life-threatening or have health consequences. In many cases, the widow in question is accused of being responsible for her husband's death, forgetting that this is a woman who is still going through psychological pains, agony in the loss of her husband. In some cases, they tell her that she has to prove her innocence, and she's required to drink water, wash the water by which the corpse of her husband has been washed. So the widow's drinking of this bathing water of her husband is a ceremony of self-exculpation, and it's believed that if the widow dies after this, then she's the one who killed her husband. This is barbaric, and this often leads to health problems and mental problems or trauma for the woman. Also, we have the shaving of the hair. The woman's hair at times is shaven with a broken bottle or razor. And at times they shave her pubic hair. In some places, they even design her head with this broken bottle after scraping it. The significance of this is that since the husband is dead, there's nobody she's beautifying herself for. And this is so dehumanizing. A senior friend of mine had her head shorn at a time. She was made to sit on the floor. She wore black clothes for many days. She went through all sorts of trauma when her husband died. And the painful part for me was after all this, she was thrown out of the house because they claimed that she was not legally married to the man. And unfortunately, she didn't have a child for the man after having gone through all the rites. Also, a woman is made to wear black clothes as a sign of mourning, to make her unattractive, and to advertise and broadcast to the whole world that she's a widow. Thank God this is changing, because we now have some people wearing white, and in some churches, they even tell them don't wear black at all. Also, you have people sleeping on the mats or sleeping on the floor. The symbolic effect of this is the dethronement, which I mentioned earlier, to subject her to, I don't even know what to call it. It's just to dehumanize her. I think that's it. Because a woman by marriage becomes above the husband's family and recognized as the wife. And so after the death of the husband, to signify the loss of her position and entitlement in the family, she's made to sit on the floor. That is to go below everybody. And this is supposed to be a sign of mourning and grieving. Also, like Dr. Bowie had mentioned earlier, prevention from birthing for a number of days. Even some women can't imagine not having their birth for a day. And yet, women are allowed to go without birthing for at times 28 days or more, depending on the tradition of the culture. Even at times when she's having a menstruation, she's not allowed to have a birth. And that, like I said, most times it is women that insist that these rites must be performed. This practice is disgusting, unthinkable, cruel, and it should not be condoned. There's also nakedness. Sitting naked to wash in a stream. In some areas, after she's birthed, the widow's clothes and shaved hair are burnt, and she must return home naked from the river. This is called the naked walk, and it's part of ritual cleansing. She may have to repeat this walk a year later after the husband has died. Some widows have to stay naked for 3 months. The only thing they are allowed to do is cover their breasts with their hands. In some cultures, she's allowed to wear clothes, but the clothes she wears is washed at night, and she must stay naked until the clothes gets dry. There is no sun in the night. So she's naked until that. So invariably, maybe till midday or late in the following day, she's naked, waiting for her clothes to get dry. Degradation is untouchable and defiled. So she must not receive gifts, must not pick items from the floor, or receive a handshake. She must not speak out, make a noise unless she's recognized. The only thing she's allowed to do is cry. Some rights of the widow insist that she will be fed by others, and her meals must be reduced in number. If she's used to feeding 3 times a day, maybe twice a day or once a day. Then scarring, at times is in the face with a knife or a razor. Sleeping with a corpse as a symbolic last sexual act with the dead husband. Chewing bitter cola, eating off unwashed dishes and plates for the duration of mourning from 28 days to 3 months. At times, she's made to swear with the husband's corpse. This is one of the worst practices and violations against women. It meant to prove that she did not kill her husband, like I said before, or that she's not a witch. So she's asked to confess to the killing of her husband and prove her innocence. If not, she must drink the water. If she refuses, obviously, she killed him. Therefore, she must be punished. Or the widow crosses the husband's corpse 3 times. If she dies before the mourning period is over, she'll be thrown into the evil forest because her death confirms that she killed her husband and she's a murderer. Seclusion and general isolation of the widow for a certain period from the community is widespread practice. And in some cases, she's just made to stay alone, depending on the society. At times, 28 days, she's not allowed to go anywhere. She's just allowed to sit in the house. And then she must sit on the floor, like I said, her food must be prepared separately. She's fed by somebody else and all that. I know somebody who actually went through this. And this one, it was used to punish her because they felt that she was too close to her husband and I don't know what they wanted. I don't know other things that they felt she had done whilst her husband was alive. So they said she couldn't go out of the house until her husband was buried. And they made sure he was not buried early. So for 5 good months, this woman was in the house. The only thing she could do was go out into the garden and back into the house. Thank God she was self-employed. But you can imagine the trauma. And then for her, in her own case, all her in-laws were coming to the house, harassing her, coming and going. She couldn't go anywhere. You can imagine the trauma she went through. And this happened immediately she came in from the hospital after her husband died. Till they buried her husband, she could not leave the house. So these are not things that are just arbitrary or they're abstract. There are things that, some of these things, I know people that they happen to, and they're still happening. Prohibition of remarriage. In some societies, she cannot remarry. And in some society, until a certain period, she cannot remarry. And in some societies, they have to dictate when and how or who she remarries, or else they'll take her children from her. In some cases, if she's remarrying, they want her to refund the bride price. And then this inheritance. Widows are deprived of family assets. Like one of the speakers had said, at times it's something she and her husband had worked for. They don't even want to know. They don't even care who owns it. All they know is that it's their husband's own, it's their brother's own, or their son's own, and they want to take it away. They don't care about the fact that this woman has children she has to fend for. They still take away these things. And at times, it's not even anything big. It doesn't even have to be anything that is massive. Because I know of a woman who came to our office then when I was still with the Administrator General's office. She and her husband were living in a one-bedroom apartment. All the husband had was a chemist shop. And her husband's family had told her they were coming to take the husband's property. And I had to ask her, what were they coming to take? Was it your bed or your pots or your phone? What were they coming to take in a one-bedroom apartment? So I told her, take anything that you think is important out of that house. Go and give it to somebody else. And then go and report at the police station nearest to you. So in case they come, let somebody go and tell the police so that they'll come and at least help you. She never came back, so I don't know how that ended. I just said that so that you know it doesn't have to be anything big. A one-bedroom apartment, and the family still wants to come and take it. Then property grabbing, which is like what I'd said before, wanting to take everything. There was one, and at times, I'm still going to talk about men who don't make their wills, but I want to give this example. There was a woman whose husband was ill. It was such a grave illness that I thought was going to die. So while she was in the hospital, going day in and out, running in and out, his siblings, thinking he was going to die, were busy coming into the house, packing things. One day, somebody will come and take television. The next day, somebody will come and take radio. The next day, somebody will come and take car. But this woman was just after her husband's recovery. Fortunately for her, her husband recovered. He got back to the house. Where's the television? Sister so has taken it. Where is the radio? Brother so has taken it. Nobody taught that man before he made his will. That woman was blessed because if that man had died, she would have been left with nothing. And that man was taught a lesson to write his will. And that was how that woman was saved. So what are the factors fueling these adverse widow practices? One of them is the male dominance and influence. Particularly in Nigeria, Africa, women have inferior status. Men will deny it, but we all know. Men usually remarry shortly after the death of their wives. And while the woman is supposed to mourn forever and be subjected to inhuman torture. In addition, because of the bride price, the woman is taken as a chattel, particularly if she married under the customary law, like I said. And then another thing is because the men, they're so domineering, women are not allowed to be part of policy making or decision making, even in their homes. And so they don't have influence on so many things that affect them. And so this is part of the reasons why they're oppressed. Also, poverty is one of the reasons fueling these adverse widow practices. Because a woman, most of our women, particularly like my colleague had said, they're in the rural areas. Most of them are not working, or they have petty trades, or that they're doing, and so they're not able to fend for themselves when their husband dies. And so because of this, they're vulnerable to whatever it is their in-laws do after their husbands die. And then that is why they're able to demand these properties, and in most cases sell off this property in the name of raising funds to bury the husband, and therefore leaving her destitute because she doesn't have another source of income or livelihood. Lack of education. Most of these widows, but thank God it's changing. Some of these things are changing because they lack formal education and they usually don't know their rights. So these adverse practices prevail. And so they're subjected to humiliation, human abuse by their husband's family. Non-employment, most of them are not employed. The husbands, when they're alive, because the husbands are so rich, I want you to be an housewife. I don't want you to do anything. I want you to take care of the children. And most times, these women, once their husband dies, they are left vulnerable because they don't have any employment. Also, part of what fuels this practice is intimidation. Most women decide to be submissive to their in-laws because they are threatened and intimidated. If they refuse to go through some of these rituals, some of them tell them they're going to take away their children and they're not going to see their children again. And so because of this, some women will just succumb and go through these rituals. There's also the superstitious beliefs. There's the belief that if they don't go through these rites, their husbands won't rest in peace. So some women, because they believe this, and their husband's spirit will just be wandering around and disturbing them in the house and disturbing the children and the family. And because they don't want this, so they believe this too, and they decide to go through these practices. Cultural acceptance. Because most women, particularly in the rural areas, go through the life believing this is the norm. This is how it is done. So how can mine be different? And because of this, they accept it and they go through it, they succumb to this. But if they were educated, they'll know that it's not by going through these practices that their husband will rest in peace, or their husband's spirit will disturb the community. And then failure of men to write a will. Like the example I gave earlier. If men write their will, nobody would be able to come and say, this is what I want to do. They would have to follow the dictates of the will, and that woman will be protected. There's also the lack of respect for women folk. Like I said, it's a man's world in Africa and in Nigeria. So women are not respected, and so they are degraded and they can be dehumanized and treated anyhow. There's also the perceived bad character of the wife. Some women believe that some wives, they lack home training or they did not behave well. And so this is the time to punish them. And now they are at their mercy. And because of this, they succumb, these women have succumbed to this practice. They have to succumb to these practices. There are also the greed. These practices and this behavior of taking away the property of the diseased person doesn't stop with the rich or the poor or it's just greed as far as I'm concerned. I know an example of a rich woman, very rich, wealthy woman in society, whose brother, because he had issues with his wife, made her to be the one in charge of his property when he died. And this woman, because he believed that she would take care of his children, this woman sold off all his properties. And it was the one he couldn't sell, the one she couldn't sell off that she left. So for such people, most times it's just greed. Like the Yoruba will say, the money for the rich money is never enough for the rich. Money is never enough for everybody. So most times it's greed, not because they don't have things of their own or properties of their own. And I also know a woman who, I think that one is retaliation. Or maybe I should say, I don't know if they felt that she had bad character or I don't know what they did. In this woman's case, the funeral was outside of Lagos. She went with her children. At the graveside, I don't even think she was allowed to perform the last rites before some members of the family who liked her spirited her away, because they had planned for her that after they finished the ceremony, they were going to kill her because they believed she killed her husband. So they spirited her away and they had to go and hide her somewhere. And the family, rich family, prominent family, took charge of all the things her husband left behind, managed them for years. How her children went to school, nobody cared. How they fed, nobody cared. It was until her children were adults that they were given back the property. So these are the examples I've given are people I know personally. So it's still happening. And at times, retaliation, for women, and they did it to me. So you two have to go through it. When my husband died, they had to shave my head. I had to sit on the floor. So why can't you sit? Are you too big to sit on the floor? You two have to sit on the floor. I think women were our own worst enemies. We should stop this. We should be seen to be championing the cause of women. We should stop being the enemies of other women. Because we went through it doesn't mean to go through it. We went through it because those who punished us did not know any better. We now know better. So I'm employing women, please let's stop this. Let's stop punishing other women because we went through the same thing. So I'll go to strategies for curbing adverse widow practices. I'll say one of the things that we need to do is include women in policy making, even at the home level, compulsory inclusion. Some men would have things, their wives don't even know the things they have. It's their brother that they will tell. It's their brother that will know everything about them. So when they die, the wife doesn't even know anything. So she's at a loss. So because she doesn't know, how will she access those things? So it's the brother who knows or the sister who knows that would access those things and sell them off or make use of them. So husbands, please include your wives in your decisions, telling them, opening up to them, letting them know things that they need to know about you. Also, enforcement of human rights. They are human rights. Constitution, there are fundamental human rights in the Constitution. They are general for women, but there are some that talk about discrimination against women. But the problem with this is enforcement. The law enforcement agencies should please make sure, particularly the police, when women come to report to you that some things are happening to them, please let's take charge. Let's ensure that their rights are upheld. Direct them as to what to do. And let them be able, so that their rights are enforced and they're not subjected to this abuse of their human rights. Women empowerment. When a woman is empowered, a whole community is empowered. If women are empowered, then they'll know their rights. If women are empowered, most times they'll be educated, they'll be able to fend for themselves, and they'll be able to do things that they're able to do. If they're given education, if they are given, like one of the widows here spoke, that she's now an accountant. Thank God to Rose of Sharon, she went for her professional exams. So if such a widow cannot be treated anyhow, because she knows her rights. Also, to dismantle these age-long traditions. They are not of benefit to anybody. Nobody's spirit is roaming around. It's not by scarring a woman, dehumanizing a woman, debasing her, the husband will rest in perfect peace. Please, let's stop all these age-long practices. Also, like I said, writing of a will. Men, please write your wills. When some men are told to write their will, or their wives say, please write your will, the next thing is she wants to kill me. She wants me to die. I'm not ready to die. So do I not? Anybody can die. We have 10-year-olds that are dying. We have children that are dying. We have youths that are dying. So dying writing your will does not have anything to do with you dying. It will only protect your family. So please, men, write your will. And at the same time, women, please write your will. Because some women, I don't have anything. If it's your pot, write who you want it to be given to, whatever it is. Please write for the widow. If the government agencies that are also non-governmental agencies and religious body take us the responsibility of effecting and championing the cause of widows by awareness programs, so that these practices can be demonized, and so that these practices can be stopped. If we need to go out to the grassroots, go out to villages, and let's talk about these things so that widows can be empowered. They could also be empowered through skill acquisition by government and other agencies, so that they are self-reliant and are able to keep their family and train their family. Also vocational training. Some government agencies are doing that. Some government, I know in Lagos State, they're doing that. If widows are given vocational training, then they can have things that they can do with their hands, trades like baking, bead making, makeup, and all that they can use as a means of livelihood for their children, so that to fend for their children. So I'll talk about social protection and inclusion mechanisms for widows. Like my learned colleague said, there are some agencies now that are looking out for widows. And we thank God for the VAC Act. The VAC Act is a national act. And by section 44 of that act, it gives National Agency for the Prohibition of Persons Against Trafficking the mandate to administer the act. The act is supposed to eliminate violence in private and public life, prohibit all forms of violence against persons, to provide maximum protection and effective remedies for victims and punishment of offenders and other related matters. And like my learned friend said, Section 15 of the Act actually deals with widows. So there are some other sections of the Act that one can use in defense of widows. This body, NAPTIP, also collaborates with other agencies and organizations, stakeholders, to implement the law. And this law is basically for the FCT, that's the Federal Capital Territory. So if you're in the Federal Capital Territory, one can go to them and ask them if one is going through any of these harmful acts or any of these harmful practices, one can go to them. And they also collaborate with other government agencies like the police, the Federal Ministry of Justice, National Security of Civil Defense, Legal Aid Council, Women Development Center, National Rehabilitation Agency, Federal Ministry of Information, Federal Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, civil organizations, faith-based organizations, and Nigerian Bar Association, to ensure that widows' rights are not trampled upon. This law has also been adopted by some other states. From the NAPTIP's website, they said, I think 35 states, including the FCT. I think it's only Kano State that has not adopted it. Though, like my learned friend said, in Ekiti State and Lagos State, what we have is slightly different. In Lagos State, we have the Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Law, sexual violence law. So, but it still also deals with sexual violence and domestic violence. So, whatever state you are in, if it's not Lagos State, I'll advise you go to their Women Affairs Ministry or whatever equivalent of the ministry that is, or the Ministry of Justice, or in some states they have the Office of the Administrator General and Public Trustee, where you can go and make your complaints and they'll take it up or advise you on where to go and where to seek help. But for Lagos State, because I know more about Lagos State, I work in Lagos State, so I'll tell you some of the offices that you can go to in Lagos State. One of the main offices that you can go to in Lagos State is Office of the Administrator General and Public Trustee. Their office is at plot 390 George Crescent off Wemco Road, Ogba. The office is charged with the statutory responsibility of managing and equitably sharing assets of estates of persons who died intestate, that is, without a will. They are also at times made executors of a will. They also recover assets of estates and settle justified claims against estates of the deceased persons. They take over management of unrepresented estates. What are unrepresented estates? Estates where there is no will and there is no administrator. If they have such an estate, you can go to them and complain to them and they'll help you take over the estate. Most of what they do is where the deceased has left properties and somebody wants to take over the property. You can easily go to them. They'll take over, they'll advise you, assist you, and if you need to go to court, they'll help you go to court. And it's a government agency, is free of charge. So you have the Office of the Public Defender. Their office is at 2 to 8 in streets by the Stadium Hotel in Surulere. And they also have branches in Ikorodu, Ogba, Badagry, Ajah, Ekpe, and Ajegunle. What they do mainly is to provide qualitative legal and free representation in court and legal advice to promote respect for rights and freedom, law and constitution, and ensure that all persons resident in Lagos, irrespective of the means, their sex, tribe, or religion have access to justice. They also provide free and qualitative legal services to the indigent and oppressed residents of the states. So if you are indigent and you're oppressed like a widow, you can go to them. If you have a court matter, they'll defend you in court free of charge. That is what they do. So they are there for the rights of the disadvantaged in Lagos State. We also have the Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency, and their office is at Plot Novel House, Plot 3, Block 3, Otobajo Bifele Road, Alausa, Ikeja. They deal more with sexual and violence, domestic and sexual violence. But they are also a collective of professionals who provide services and official services in a timely fashion to various needs of domestic and sexual violence survivors by giving legal advice, medical, emergency counseling, psychology, full advice to people. And they also work with various other agencies. They work with the Ministry of Education, they work with Ministry of Justice, they work with Mirabel Center, they work with NGOs, they work with the police, and they work with the Ministry of Youth and Sports and Social Welfare. So if you go to any of these ministry or agencies, they'll direct you on where to go if you're a widow. And they work with the Ministry of Women Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. The Ministry of Women Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, they are there to help the widows, to empower widows. And they liaise with women organizations. They all coordinate poverty alleviation programs. They train people vocationally, and then they help them to acquire skills. So women can go to them for vocational training and skill acquisition. So women are encouraged, women who don't, particularly widows, it's for all women, but widows are women, so widows can also go there. So what can widows do to protect themselves? One of the things I'll suggest is that for widows to form support groups. There are times when you are going through something and you are alone and you're thinking, my world is at an end. If you hear other people's stories, or if you associate with other widows, they can encourage you and they can tell you where to seek help and how to go about it. So it's important that widows form support groups or join support groups to assist you in going through this trying period. Widows should also try to get vocational training. I've mentioned WAPA, Women Affairs and Poverty Alleviation Ministry in Lagos State, and there are some other NGOs that also train people. You can also go to them and get trained free of charge, so you can be able to fend for yourself and your children. And also, if you have the means, try to get educated. Because once a widow is educated, then you can fight for your rights. You can get work easily than when you are not educated. Also, know your rights. Widows should find out what rights they have, where they can get those rights enforced, how they can get those rights enforced. Because if you don't even know you have rights, then you won't be able to fight for your rights. So please try to find out where you can, those rights that you have under the Constitution and other laws of the states wherever you are. And like I said, empower yourself. Try to empower yourself by petty trading or doing something, looking for something to do. And then learn to stand up for your rights. Most of these people who are traumatizing you, they're cowards. If you go to agencies that can help you to stand up for your rights, they'll run away. They'll leave you alone. So learn to fight back
Learn to go to those agencies that can help you. Seek them out. Seek help. Don't just sit there and wallow in whatever it is you're going. Look for help. Ask people, talk out, speak out to people. You never know who can help you. You never know where you'll be able to find help. So please seek help. Look for help wherever you can, and God will help you. And then lastly, apart from widows helping them, so there's so many things the government, the society, and other individuals, organizations, NGOs can do to help the widows. One of the things we can do is to end discriminatory traditions. How do we do this? Women should be able to inherit equally as men, the heads of their household and families, be able to have a job or profession. There should be, all discriminatory laws should be stopped. They should not be robbed of their properties. They should be given shelter, income, social benefits, and opportunities. And they should not be stopped from advancing their rights or getting their rights. Widows should be empowered to support themselves and their families by government, by NGOs, to live right and with dignity, by ensuring they have access to education and training opportunities, decent work, and equal pay. And also, we should be able to empower our widows. Government, please, other governments, Lagos State is doing something, other governments of other states, please look for trade that will empower your widows. Do work, give them work, train them so that they can be empowered, give them training opportunities, give them work, pay them decently so that they can take care and fend for themselves and their families. Also, let us educate our women. When we are educated, they'll know that these practices are inhuman and they won't succumb to these practices. They won't give up and just say, it's the norm, I'll go through it. Let's educate our women that these rights are wrong. These rights are harmful to them. So it is not something that they should do. They should go through. And also, let's educate our men. There are men who are in positions of authority, policy-making authority. Let's educate them. Some of them don't even know what these women go through. Let's educate them. Let them know what these women go through. So when they're in the position to help, when they're in a position to make policies, they would remember and assist to make policies that will change the lives of widows for the better. Also, the issue of next of kin. In this talks to men in particular, when most of men, when they start work, when they fill forms, they write the names of maybe their brothers or siblings as the next of kin. At times, maybe when they're not married. When you get married, please write the name of your wife. If you don't want to write your wife, write your children as your next of kin. So that we don't pray that you die early, but when the time comes, your wife, your family can be the one that will benefit from your properties. And also the use of legislation and enforcement of legislation. Policymakers, yes, we have the VAP Act. We have some of the acts like in Lagos State, some of these acts or these laws, they are not specifically tailored to assist widows. Please, let's tailor these laws to assist our widows. And let there be so many enforcement regulations in these laws that these laws will be enforced. I know that the Director General and Public Trustee Law of Lagos State is undergoing amendments
So I pray that the House of Assembly, when they are settled, will look into this law and quickly pass it. Then other traditional and community leaders too should be educated. Most of these widows are in the rural areas, and most of these traditions are enforced by these traditional and community leaders. They should be educated because they are influential and they have people who follow them. Once they are educated and they know these acts are harmful, then most of this tradition will stop. And these women would not be forced to go through these rites again. So these obas, our emirs, our traditional rulers should be educated. Also advocacy, public enlightenment, the media. They have a long way to go in helping us with this advocacy. They should publish things that deal with widows, not just sensational things. Because some people don't even know what widows go through. They don't even know that widows go through anything, this particular harmful act. So if our media can help us in sensitizing people and letting people know, if our governments and agencies of government can also go out, be advocates of these widows, let people know what widows are going through, tell people to stop this harmful acts, this will go a long way in eradicating this act. The Nigerian Bar Association, legal practitioners generally, we too have a long way to go in helping widows. And we are also key in helping widows. We can also be an advocacy tool. Then apart from that, we can also offer free services to widows, pro bono services to help widows when they have issues. So we can help them enforce their rights. This will go a long way in helping widows. We also have other women agencies, like the International Federation of Women Lawyers that my learned friend belongs to. They also help widows. Nigerian Women Forum, which is the female arm of the Nigerian Bar Association, they also help widows. The African Women's Law Association, AULA, they also help widows. So these are agencies that widows can go to. And also these agencies, please let's ensure that we do more to help widows, to eradicate these practices. And judges too, when these matters are brought before them, they should go into the laws and ensure that they're not dealing with technicalities. They should broaden the law, make sure that they give liberal interpretation and not narrow interpretation to the laws. And make sure that the laws are interpreted in progressive ways to assist widows so that this eradication would come quickly and widows will be better off for it. Religious bodies too, we have a long way to go. Churches, mosques, we too can help in a way, in a little ways. Form organizations, form associations. I know some churches. In my church, we have what we call the Grace Association, who are widows, widowers, and they help themselves. And so we can form these associations in churches, in mosques, to assist widows, help them. This would help, this will go a long way in eradicating and helping them financially, economically, and socially. And like my learned friend said, help desk at local governments. Local governments too, you are the ones at the grassroots. Let there be help desk there for widows so that they can come and complain, so that things can be done to help them and ensure that the rights of the widows are enforced. We are now noticing changes in treatment of widows in Nigeria. However, slow, but we are now noticing changes in the treatment of widows. because of factors like education, modernization, religion, and high exposure of women to different things. Like they're now getting more educated, they have better jobs, and so this is tempering the ways widows are treated. Therefore, economic empowerment of widows, among other recommendations, is advocated to liberate the women folk from these harmful widowhood practices. Also, Nigeria should domesticate the CEDAW and the Maputo Protocol, as these are the two most comprehensive instruments protecting widow and widows' rights, women and widows' rights. The VAP Act too should be made more specific to widows. And in states like Lagos State and Kano State, the laws too should be made more specific to widows. And other states too, from what you said today, I'm sure there are areas of your law that you can amend to assist widows so that they're better treated. There's also the need for gender equality. There's also the need for framework and legislations that positively affect women, especially widows. And this should be formulated to guide existing cultural widow practices that infringe on the fundamental human rights of widows. Finally, aside the domestication of international treaties and all the laws of Lagos State and all the laws of Nigeria, women, men, and everybody, we should all work together to treat these widows better. These widows are either our sisters, they're either our mothers, they're either our in-laws, they are related to us one way or the other. They are not from the moon, they are part of us. So please, and women in particular, let's treat each other better. So in my own opinion, if we all do this, this will go a long way in ensuring social protection and inclusion for widows. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Barrister Odulami. That was a very extensive and erudite presentation. We are really grateful, Ma. God bless you abundantly. It's a Q&A session. I have a few questions here. I would start by asking Barrister Agnes Ifeyinwa Okpalako. I will start by asking Mrs. Okpalako a few questions that are directed to her. The first question says, Ma, the people that make life difficult for widows are mostly found in the villages and rural areas. We know you talked about the widows' gender desk in villages and local governments for widows to access and for their issues to be addressed. One institution found in these villages, particularly in the eastern part of Nigeria, is the institution called Umuada. They make life difficult for women when they're about to marry, and they're made up of women, and they make life tough for widows. Please, Ma, what do you think can be done to address this? Okay. So, Mrs. Okpalako, the second question you have is, you talked about the VAP Act. And you mentioned 1 or 2 or 3 sections of the VAP Act. Are there other laws in Nigeria that widows can access to protect their rights? And in addition, do you think that the VAP Act covers everything that widows go through?
Thank you so much for that wonderful question. I will take first question that touches on the Umuada, so to speak, as an institution in the East that frustrates women during marriages and then when at the stage of widowhood. Well, remember in the course of my presentation, I said something about the help desk being set up in villages. And because those are things that will follow progressively, incidents of actions meted against widows. Remember the Umuadas, I did mention it here. The Umuadas hold on to this tradition tenaciously because they feel they were treated in like manner. Mrs. A was treated in like manner, Mrs. B, C, D, so there is no exception. So that is the need, the whole essence of the help desk there, to sensitize them more that this act is an act meted against them, which is inhuman. Most of them are not happy. You can't rule out that fact. Some are not happy. But because they feel that it's something handed over to them from tradition, and they cannot be the first to break that rule. Go deep into maybe each of them. Ask them questions. You will find out that they are not happy. The whole essence of this help desk, let's in touch with them one-on-one. Ask them questions, address this issue. They will open up to you to tell you that they are not happy. They are willing to get out of this whole mess. But how do they do it? They can't remain in that same atmosphere, in that same village or rural setting to fight a cause, a culture, inhuman culture that's there against. So that is where I think policymakers will have to come in. Let them know, take them outside that vicinity, take them outside that environment. Let them get to know what is obtainable elsewhere, and then they will adapt. By the time they will come back, I think they will have a different story altogether to present. In the same manner too, we have to take that, because if you look at the rural as an institution there, because there is much concentration on the urban cities, but we can start off from the religious circle. Religion, if you look at the religious, the churches, the mosque, they have records of widows. They can tell you, this is what is really, this person is bereaved. So from there, the help desk can come in to monitor events. So I think that institution called the Umuadas is something handed over to them. It's not as if the Umuadas came on their own. Somehow, maybe they propounded the custom which they inherited. But there's a way sensitizing and then schooling them on the effects, because they have children who will also be subjected. And by the time you ask them, would you want your daughter to be subjected to the untold hardship you went through as a widow? Some of them will say no. So I think we'll have to start from there. Thank you. I hope I've addressed that question. Then the second one is, you mentioned laws that protect widows. I don't know if I'm getting it. Laws that protect widows, are there more? No, I don't. I said it earlier when I presented that VAP is not in totality a curative measure to the plight of widows, but to an extent, because when you look at what it was prior to VAP and what it is now with the incoming of VAP, you'll find out that there is a milestone difference. So VAP has not really actually done the total, what we totally need. but to an extent, it has done something. Because remember, in course of my presentation, I said section 15 had simply mentioned harmful practices, but have not specifically referred to those harmful practices. Because when you take away property of a widow, the property with which she will probably take care of her children, for me, it's a harmful practice. Where you subject a woman to untold hardship to the extent of sleeping with the corpse of her dead spouse, it's an untold hardship. So these are all areas. There is a particular section in VAW, actually, because when we look at the act being referred to specifically at widows, you find a few paragraphs like just section 15. But if we look at other sections, which does not really refer to widows, but specifically to human beings, which a widow falls into. For instance, I think there's a particular section in VAB which says, making someone economically dependent on another is in itself a crime. And this prevails in the setting of widowhood, situation where you find the husbands and relative of the widow's dead spouse was takes over everything, leaving nothing, absolutely nothing for the widows and the children. And you remember that the society, this family is a small unit of the society. Whatever that goes on within the society is thrown into the macro society. So there is need for the policymakers to look at. I think the best is looking at preventive measures. We don't wait till it gets to the widowhood and all the plights and all their sufferings. We nip it at the bud from day one. This woman is bereaved. We start from there. Whatever properties, whatever she has, is a no-go area for anybody. So I think I have been able to answer the question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Opalako. I have a few more questions directed at Mrs. Odulami. First of all, participants are asking if they can have access to your slide to help them to have something to refer to. And I think that is possible. You can drop your email address in the chat box, and I will get the slides to you later. Somebody sent, it's not really a question, Mrs. Odulami, but it's like a commendation. It is well done for a very incisive, detailed, highly illuminating discourse on the given subject. Previously thought I was knowledgeable about adverse widowhood practices in Nigeria. I now see I am only at the foundation stage. After your talk, I can say I am now truly informed. Do you have any book you have written on the subject matter? If not, perhaps you wish to consider such a book so that Nigerians at large, students, teachers, and lawmakers can have a veritable resource tool. This is Noble Laureate.
I am highly honored, humbled by the commendation. I don't have a book. Like I said in my talk and from my CV, I only worked with widows when I was in the Department of Administrator General and Public Trustee for about 6 years. And widows are a passion, or I'm passionate about them. So thank you very much for your commendation. I really appreciate it. God bless you.
Thank you, Mrs. Odulami. The other question for you, Ma, is you talked about scaring and degradation, which is a very terrible practice. But there is no segment in the VAP Act that explains this. What immediate measure do you think that the government and our communities can take as an immediate step to put an end to this?
Well, the immediate step that we can do is, as women, first of all, let's help each other. Like I said, who are these people perpetrating these acts? Women. Most times it's not the men, it's we women. So if we love each other, we'll be able to do it. Because the law will, before the law comes to help us, we need to help ourselves. And then we need to educate each other. That is one thing that we need to do. We need to educate each other. Let people know what women are going through. Let us know that all these rights, ample practices, they will not help the dead. The dead is dead, dead and gone. It's the living that needs help. It's the living that we should assist to live and not kill. But as to the law, yes, we can, but those ones are long term. That's why I think for me, mostly it's an attitude. It's for us to change and help other people change. What is happening to your neighbor? Watch out for your neighbor. Is your neighbor a widow? Help her, advise her. Like I tell widows at times, this one is an aside. When, not widows, women, I pray your husbands live very long. But when your husbands die, first thing before you tell anybody, shine your eyes. Documents that are valuable, take them away from the house. Some seem callous, seem emotional, seem uncaring, but I'm sorry, that is the most important thing. Because whilst you are mourning, whilst you are crying, people are ransacking your house, looking for documents to take away. And once they take those documents away, you can't get your hands on them. So women, let's shine our eyes. Women, some of the things we have learned from here, share with other women. So the long-term one is laws. Let's form lobbying groups, advocacy groups for laws to be changed, for laws to be enforced. But immediately, women, we need to help ourselves. Thank you very much.
The other question, Ma, is you talked about including wives in decision-making, beginning from the home and the family. But some men say, if you allow the wives to know everything, their demands will increase. They will ask for things, even things they don't need to ask for. They know the things you have. They know how much money you're making. Please, Ma, can you respond to this?
Well, that one will now depend on individual homes, but that is the best practice. A man should trust his wife enough, and a woman should trust her husband enough, so that when the husband tells her things, she too doesn't make demands. So women, I'm begging us, because on the long run, we're the ones going to be harmed by this if we don't know what our husbands have. When our husbands have things, that's not the time to now start asking him for things that you don't need. But if ordinarily we are women that are not bothered about what our husbands have, husbands will trust us more. Husbands will tell us things more. We only need to gain the trust of our husbands and not be materialistic. If we gain the trust of our husbands will tell us things. So it's the same thing with the issue of will. Most men don't want to write will because they believe they don't want to die. So in such cases, if you can get somebody else to talk to your husband to help you discuss with him so he can write a will, fine. But it's also important your husband writes a will. Back to the inclusion, if there are ways that you can get somebody else to help talk to your husband to include you, but I think for me, the important thing is for us women to let our husband trust us so that, and then not be materialistic, so that they'll be able to trust us enough to tell us everything that we need to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma. Another question for you. This has to do with the probate registry. It says the probate registries may be part of adversities widows encounter. The government charges 10% upfront to be paid to the Treasury before they obtain letters of administration or obtain probate where wills are not made. Where the widows are of means, paying the 10% will be no problem. However, in many cases, the widows may not be of means. They now have to borrow money at outrageous interest rates to pay government's 10% upfront to enable the widow access her late husband's property. This is an area worthy of law reform in order to protect widows from harsh vagaries of widowhood. Ma, before you respond, I would like to share something. When my own dad, passed on in 2019, I got a lawyer friend to work with me to get letters of administration for my mom. When the forms were filled and we had to take the bank certificate to the bank, I sat down with a lawyer and the bank manager of the branch, and I said, we are not paying the 10% upfront. Attach the 10% of the money my dad had in the bank. When we are done and you are moving the money to an estate account, you can deduct your 10%. And that was done. So I didn't have to look for 10% to pay government upfront in my own case. I just wanted to add that probably some people don't know that the bank can charge that when you're done getting your letters of administration. So you don't have to run around borrowing money at exorbitant interest rates to pay government 10% upfront. That's my own personal experience and advice. So Mr. Odulami, please, you can add your point to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bowie. You've already answered half of my question for me. Thank you very much. The first thing is, in Lagos State, I can only talk about Lagos State. There is something they call, I think is small, means, or low income, depending on the percentage of what the disease left behind. They don't charge 10%. There's a way they work it out. Unfortunately, because I wasn't sure, but I don't have the laws and I didn't bring anything to support that. But I know that they treat low income separately. They won't charge you 10% like that. There's a way they treat it. And then also what Dr. Bowie said, I know people who is the bank that pays for them and they don't have to look for the 10%. So that is there. And then it's even a good thing this issue is coming up. So instead of us just saying that the probate registry takes 10%, the probate registry too are there for widows. Where there's dispute about the property and they can't agree on what percentage, there's a certain area in the probate registry that also help widows to share their properties. I didn't know of that, despite the fact that I worked in ministry, I worked everywhere until recently when a widow told me that I was there, Lagos State, that she went to, and they helped her share her husband's property. So apart from taking the 10%, probate registries also do that. So I hope that has answered the question. Thank you.
Yeah, this is also for you, Mrs. Odulami. Do you think NAPTIP is holistically implementing VAP? NAPTIP, the agency saddled with the responsibility by government to implement the VAPP Act of 2015. The question, Ma, is, do you think NAPTIP is holistically implementing the VAP Act?
Holistically implementing it. The VAP Act is just a part, the issue of widows is just a part of what the NAPTIP does. Most of their work is based on trafficking, and they do have more. This VAP Act now, as far as I'm concerned, introduced some issues about sexual violence and all that. Unfortunately, I don't have the statistics here, but they are treating it holistically as far as trafficking and domestic violence is concerned. Because from the statistics that they have, they've treated about over 1,370 something cases of domestic violence since the inception, since the act came into being. But if it's as to widows issue, I don't have anything on widows issues. And for me, I would say it's not because they're not doing anything. I think it's more because people are not aware of the VAP Act, the widows that need it. And again, if we are mindful of the fact that the VAP Act is only for FCT Abuja, and how many widows are there? So for me, those are the issues that are against the NAPTIP actually fully implementing the widows part, that's section 15 of the VAP Act. But on issues of sexual violence, trafficking, and all that, they are fully implementing those. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dulami. That also brings us back to the same point that we're advocating, strongly advocating for a specific agency to cater for the welfare of widows and to also have an amendment and expansion of section 15 of the VAP Act. Someone says here, Ma, thank you so much for the robust presentation. I have gone to school today. Widows in diaspora actually experience dehumanizing treatment, stigmatization, stereotyping from in-laws, both home and abroad. Please, Ma, what is being done, or how can we ensure that the next generation, especially our boys, are educated in schools through relevant educational curriculum, or what is being discussed here today?
Before we go to the schools, I think the home is the first place. How do our men treat our women? How do our mothers treat the girls and the boys? Most times, mothers treat the girls in such a way that the boy is the king in the house. I've heard of mothers where the boy doesn't do anything, it's the sisters that do everything. We are contributing to this. So for me, the home, before we go to school, the home is the place to start it. If we treat women better, respect women's dignity, respect her rights, treat her as a human being, then it will be difficult for anybody to degrade her or dehumanize her. Once we start doing that, then it will spread. If I do it in my home, you do it in your home, then it will spread. And then if we educate our loved ones in the villages, and we don't take part when my brother or my uncle dies, I now decide his wife, I'm going to make sure that all those things that she did to me whilst her husband was alive, she's going to suffer for it. Then things will change. Because we are jumping to schools. Schools, for me, that means we have to lobby the government to put it in their curriculum. But why don't we start where we have influence? Why don't we start in our own areas of influence first, before we start talking about remove the log in our own eyes, before we remove the speck in the other person's eyes? So for me, let's start with ourselves. Educate myself, educate the person next to me, let that person educate the other person, and to spread. And then when we've done a bit of that, then we can now start lobbying governments to put it in their curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Delamy. Somebody said here, for involving the wife, it's an individual, in an individual context, you need to know the type of wife or husband you marry before exposing your will. Some women now connive with their first son to kill their husband. However, being open to each other helps a lot for unforeseen circumstances. Thank you. Yeah, you can add something, ma'am.
Usually when you write a will, you're not supposed to tell your wife what is in your will. So that one is not, I don't want to use a bad word. So a husband who says he doesn't want to write a will, wills is just for the person who wrote it for you, either your lawyer. Even your signatory, plus people who sign, the two people who are signatories to your will don't know the content of your will. So saying because your wife will know, you are not supposed to tell your wife, but you're supposed to protect her in your will. That is the important thing, not tell her what the content of your will. Thank you.
Yeah, ma'am says, thank you, ma'am. How can we strengthen the police force, Ministry of Women Affairs, and Nigeria justice system to respond to the plight of widows?
In such cases, lobby the federal government that is in charge of the police, lobby the National Assembly, take in private bills, because private persons are allowed to send in their bills. So send in your private person's bill to the House of Assembly or the National Assembly and bring up lobbying groups, work with the media, form lobbying groups, NGOs, fight for it, advocacy and all that, make enough noise. And apart from making noise, like I said, lobby those groups, bring your laws up, and then things will change.
I also want to add there, Section 38 of the VAP Act empowers both governmental, non-governmental, individuals to rescue widows or people who go through the sexual or any form of violence to address the issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Opalaku, for adding that. I think it's time for us to get into the final segment of today's event, and that will be presentation of reports from staff of the Rose of Sharon Foundation from the outstation. The Rose of Sharon Foundation is headquartered in the Southwest here in Lagos, but we have coordinator staff who take care of our programs and activities in the other 5 geopolitical zones of Nigeria. So they'll be presenting their reports now. Permit me to call on my colleague, Solon Tusi Taiwo, to anchor that part of this event. Sister.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Bowe. It's been very, very impactful today. So much information, and we trust our stakeholders, policymakers, to work with what has come to our table today. So quickly, we're going to be taking report from the vice source. We'll be starting with the Southeast zone. And I'll be calling on Mr. Aneke Onyedika to take us through that quickly. Mr. Aneke, over to you.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me, Madam Tosin?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I will be sharing a screen. I will be making a presentation from that. Okay. Please. Please, can we confirm if you can see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mr. Evaristus Onyedika Aneke. I'm presenting for Rose of Sharon Foundation, Southeast Zone. So this is just a little presentation we want to make based on our activities within the reporting period. So this is the presentation outline. We're going to look at the program coverage, where do we have Rose of Sharon beneficiaries, then updates on the general program contribution, as well look at the pictures, the program pictures of what we've been doing. So in the Southeast, we have 5 states: Anambra, Imo, Abia, Enugu, and Ebonyi states. And it's interesting to know that Rose of Sharon is also working in these states, covering 15 local governments. And so far, we've enrolled 50 widows and 29 orphans across the 5 states. Okay, so in the states, what are we doing specifically? One, on a monthly basis, we conduct what we call a home visit, a business site visit as well, to the 50 widows and 29 orphans households to see how they are faring, identify issues, challenges, and then see how best they are being resolved. Then again, the team also facilitated the payment of school fees worth 3,101,200 naira for 52 beneficiaries, 23 orphans and 29 widows' children, to ensure that they are enrolled in school, retained in school, and also progress from one class to the other. We then conducted a community sensitization on harmful gender norms and then cultural practices. I really appreciated the last speaker because she made mention of a lot of things that are happening at the community level. So with this, we were able to improve the level of knowledge for the community stakeholders. 25 of them were in attendance. And one of the outcomes of this meeting is that one community leader was appointed as a GBV champion, where whatever that happens at the community, any abuse to the widow should be reported to him, then he will take it up from there. With that, we were able to institute that, and quarterly we'll be having a meeting to look at what has happened and how to improve it. Again, we conducted advocacy visits to the community stakeholders for project buy-in, and also to raise resources locally to support some of these widows and then their children on some activities that might not be able to be covered by Rose of Sharon. Then we conducted an advocacy visit to Ebonyi State Health Insurance Agency to ensure that we enroll our beneficiaries in their health insurance scheme. So we noticed that in the facilities across their local government, they have what we call the social register, where some persons, especially 0 to 5 years, are being registered and they are having a pre-medical care. So we're also trying to include those that are above 5 years. So if this works out for us, we'll definitely scale it up to other states in the Southeast zone. And again, we conducted just the day before yesterday an advocacy walk to mark Rose of Sharon Foundation 15 years anniversary and International Widows Day celebration. So all this we are also made to improve the lives of the vulnerable people who were enrolled in Southeast zone. So for the educational support, as we said initially, under the Rose of Sharon Bridge of Hope Scholarship, these 52 children were supported, and 23 orphans and then 29 widows. So if you look at the table down, you see the categorization by enrollment stream and then by the level of education. Then you also know that we don't just enroll these people in school, we also try to monitor to see how they are performing. So across board, we saw that they are retained in school, but however, some of them that are not really doing well, we engage the services of some volunteers to bring them up to speed and ensure that they finish the basic education they need to finish, and then ensure they cross over to the tertiary institution where they can also make much living after graduating from the higher institution. Again, we have 2 orphans that have graduated from vocational skills training. One learns shoemaking, the other one is organizing business. For the shoemaking, the startup kits will be provided by next month or so. Is part of our last half of the year budget. And then the one for organizing is really, really doing fine. And then he's even the breadwinner now in the family. And he always gives his support to anything we are doing in that their locality because of the support he has received. So these are the pictures of the activities we've done under education, school visit, and hope. Okay, so under agri scheme, we have already trained 31 widow farmers across the implementing states in the production of biofortified crop. That is, we have orange flesh, sweet potato, vitamin A corn, and cassava. So now these women are also doing well based on these that have been trained on. And out of the 31 widows, 2 widows, especially from Imo State, are now serving as facilitators to other caregivers, especially community-based organization in Imo State, where they train 25 caregivers on how to produce these biofortified crops and improve on the variety of potatoes. And as you can see, 80,000 naira, they made 80,000 naira from sales of their own orange flesh sweet potato. Why? Because they were able to do that and then continue to, get more profits while, producing such a crops, and they have already helped others to come up with speed on how to do that. Then we also thank Rose of Sharon Foundation for training 9 widows through collaboration with International Center for Environment and Development on climate smart agriculture. And they also receive fertilizers to boost their farm products. And then lastly, every time we go for home visits, we always encourage the widows and the caregivers of the orphans to have a home garden and as well rear livestock, which we believe will help them stabilize the economy. So you can see the picture we have by the side of the activities on that. Then business support. Again, monthly we visit their business sites and see how they are doing, where we also identify gaps and provide technical support. We're able to link the 15 widows who have benefited from Rose of Sharon interest-free loan to savings groups, this daily savings group, and they are also making it from there, and is now helping them to repay their loan. So out of the 15 that received the interest-free loan, 5 have completed theirs and then plug back the savings they got from the daily savings into their business, and they are now doing well as well, while the others are, doing their business and then repaying their loan. So these are part of the pictures we took when we went for that trip. Okay, so this about scale acquisition program. So it might interest you to know that 87 women and 40 older adolescents across the 5 states have been trained on soap making, combo snacks, production and processing of orange sweet potato into juice, and so on. So if you look back at the side, you see how happy those women are based on the activities that they have already learned, and then how they are putting it in practice. Then the last but not the least is the welfare support that the beneficiaries are getting from the organization. Okay, so permit me to use one word. They always receive back-to-back support from the organization. So I want to pause here to, appreciate the founder, Chief Mrs. Olorosun Alakeja. I call her mommy. It's really, really amazing to see people laugh, in this critical situation we found ourselves. And for just last year and then this year, he has already spent 1,150,000 naira to purchase, food stuff and then distribute it among these beneficiaries, which if you look by the side, you see how happy, they are receiving that, because it has helped them a lot. Then there is one thing one of them said day before yesterday when we are having our meeting after the work. She was like, she wouldn't know where she would have been, and one of her child would have died if not because of the 25,000 naira. I don't really remember more than any other support. And she said it helps her to take her child to hospital and also have some food stuff at home and then support her business. And today they are still doing great. So she thanks the organization immensely for that support. Then again, as I said initially, when we went for advocacy visit, trying to lobby the community stakeholders for them to buy into the project. And then again, to source resource clothes. So we have to join and philanthropy.
Yeah, hello, Aneke.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, thank you so much. It's past 5 minutes.
Okay. Sorry, we are
past 5 minutes. Yes.
Yeah, so these are the challenges, these are what we do. Then these are some of the pictures we have so far, at the state where we work. Thank you, and over.
Thank you so much, Aneke. Thank you very much. That's a report from the Southeast. Thank you very much. Quickly, I'd like to call on Ms. Imabong Udo from South. Imabong, are you there? Imabong, are you there? Okay, if she's not there, let's take report from Northwest. Mr. Oshenu Paul, are you ready? Yes, can you kindly unmute yourself? Yes, it's unmuted.
Can you
Please
hear me, ma?
stick to 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes, please. Thank
It's
you.
okay. Good afternoon, ma, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Paul Ochenu, zonal coordinator for the Rose of Sharon Foundation, Northwest Nigeria. In Northwest Nigeria, Northwest include Kaduna, Kano, Jigawa, Katsina, Zamfara, Sokoto, and the likes of Kebbi State. Over 119 beneficiaries, including 49 widows, 50 widows' children, and 20 orphans across 18 local government areas have been reached out to and empowered in the areas of income-generating activities, financial inclusion initiative, educational support programs through the help of the founder, Apostle Folorunsho Alakeja, since inception. This report is an overview of all the activities that went by during this short period of time. We've been conducting periodic household and school visiting to checkmate the well-being of beneficiaries under our watch, and also monitors the activities, student performances, as well as the assessment of beneficiaries under the Rose of Sharon Foundation Bridge of Hope Scholarship Initiative. These are done on the regular basis to assist our widows and orphan caregivers with possible solutions, encouragement, and motivations during their hard times. In January, 35 widows across Sokoto and Katsina states were sensitized on the dichotomy of when to spend and when to save. During a managing of resource and sensitization of financial saving habits program, while over 20 widows in Kano states so impacted with the formation of carrying out modern day savings planning with 100 naira. In maintaining one of our core values of the Rose of Sharon Foundation in the areas of intersynergy to partnership and collaboration with community-based organizations carrying out similar programs in the areas of community development and social intervention, just like us. In the month of February 2023, our team and potential volunteers had engaged in several advocacy reach outs to organizations like Let's Save Her Initiative and Colgate in Kaduna State, Let's Serve Him Together in Jigawa State, Zam Charity and Ikra Foundation in Zamfara State, Juvenile Aid Foundation in Sokoto State, and Adonai Orphanage Home Foundation. Through the help of the founder, donations were made to orphans. These include food stuff, blankets, tissue papers, bathroom slippers, just to mention a few, were among items donated to Adonai Orphanage Foundation and vulnerable children. In helping widows to overcome their financial challenges, our team and volunteers also work closely with widows and train over 50 Rose of Sharon Foundation production of tie and dye in the month of March 2023 in Kano State. As if it's not enough, during a financial literacy workshop on the formation of loaning and VSLA, over 56 widows from diverse communities in Katsina State were empowered with piggy box saving boxes to enhance their saving culture, so as to also help them expand their loaning network while working together to uplift their communities. The fight against zero hunger in the lives of widows has seen progress across community in Northwest. However, to end hunger crisis in all its forms, over 49 widows households across the zone were reached out to in April 2023 and supported during the Muslim Ramadan and fasting season with food items, including bags of beans, cartons of Indomie noodles, rice, and gari, so as to tackle zero hunger targets in the zone. In May 2023, we carried out a dental medical health outreach initiative in collaboration with Colgate. The program, which had over 100 participants in attendance, including the Rose of Sharon Foundation beneficiaries across diverse communities in Kaduna State, gave widows the opportunity and special access to free dental care kits, free toothpaste, and toothbrushes were also distributed to them to maintain a healthy lifestyle at the end of the program. Finally, widows in Kaduna and Katsina State came out in grand style to mark and celebrate the just celebrated 15th anniversary of the Rose of Sharon Foundation. And a exercise was organized as a way of campaigning widows' rights in the society. The widows who came out singing and praising God Almighty and also organized a prayer section thanking God for using
Please, can you wrap up?
Apostle Folorunsho Alakeja, who has changed their lives positively through a life support reach out initiative. Thank you very much. Reporting from Northwest Zone.
Yeah, thank you so much, Paul. That was a good one. Do we have Imabong from South South? Are you there? Imabong, are you there? Okay, I think we should move to the Northeast. Do we have Mr. Inua ready for your report?
Yes, ma.
Okay, please take over.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abdullahi Nogumo, Northeast Zonal Coordinator, representing Adamawa, Bauchi, Borno, Gombe, and Taraba State. And here in the Northeast, we have 74 widows and 30 orphans in the zone. First and foremost, on behalf of the widows and orphans in the Northeast Zone, we are appreciating and congratulating the Foundation for celebrating its 15 years, impacting the lives of voiceless and marginalized set of people in the country. Congratulations to the founders of this great organization, especially our mommy, Florison Alakija, for this wonderful initiative, and to the management of the foundation. Also here in the Northeast Zone, the foundation is trying and have been trying to change the narrative from insecurity to widows and orphans empowerment. So far, the zone has the highest number of widows and orphans in the country due to insurgency. This fight, the foundation succeeded in touching the lives of widows, orphans, and widows' children via its numerous transformational programs. Some of these achievements recorded during our reporting period so far, the foundation has trained over 200 widows on different skill acquisition, such as liquid soap making, detergent, pasta making, tailoring, bombita, perfume making, etc. and etc. Also, in its effort to address the issue of food scarcity and promote one of the SDGs goals, the foundation, in collaboration with African Center for Women and Youth Sustainable Development, have trained over 150 widows on home gardening, crop production, and rearing of livestock. Thank you, Mama Alakija, for this great gesture. After the training, beneficiaries were followed to ensure they make use of the new skills and track progress. As noted and prescribed by the foundation, education is key priority. Apart from scholarship, the foundation is providing to its beneficiaries. Therefore, the foundation, in partnership with Genjua Graduate Forum, a community-based organization, supported over 150 orphans and widows children with school learning materials in the zone. The school items distributed include A-size books, uniform, and school standards. Foundation also distributed food items worth thousands of naira to widows' households in Northeast Zone. The support touches the lives of more than 200 direct and indirect beneficiaries in various communities across the zone. So also, the foundation provided life support training to widows on health-related issues, such as personal hygiene, psychosocial support on how to control malaria and other diseases. Statistics have shown that there is increase in youth involvement in drug abuse in the country. In May 2022, the foundation organized the drug abuse sensitization campaign in the zone, which serves as a wake-up call to the communities to tackle the menace. To replicate the same, one of the communities in Bauchi State organized one-day youth sensitization campaign on drug abuse to over 300 youth and community stakeholders. This led to the establishment of drug abuse sensitization committee in the community. Also, this year, the committee is planning to organize another campaign and need technical support from the foundation. Finally, also, a sensitization campaign was carried out to over 10 communities on the need to protect and help widows orphans in their communities, which resulted in provision of help to widows and orphans by individuals in their communities. Thank you. This is the update from our Northeast. Congratulations once again to Rob's family, and thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Inoa from the Northeast. Quickly, let's go to the South as Imabong takes us through their reports. Imabong, are you there? Imabong, are you there?
Here.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm here. Are you here? Hello.
Please go ahead, Imabong, we can hear you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm now with the South. The role has been in several communities. The foundation through their attractive make program has provided individuals and families through economic growth, this program, often school intervention and psychology in the South region. We comprise of Cross River, Edo, was not left out of the numerous developments made the foundation. A few weeks ago, the International Center for Environmental Health and Development, in collaboration with African Women Development, conducted a capacity building programs for women on climate smart agriculture. You would agree with me, agriculture has been the major source of human development, such as employment, food supply, foreign exchange, and raw materials. On how climate and diverse ways to handle and avoid it, from endangering farmland by practicing safe agricultural methods. The women were given fertilizer to their beneficiaries to be able to compete in order to create economic and steady food supply. Over 100 women across the zone were trained on pastries, and a total of 150 women were trained on liquid soap making to enable them become self-reliant. The zone has undergone business visits to those in business. Emotional health survey was done to ascertain how they feel, and welfare packages were given to the widows. Psychological support was also rendered by the coordinators of the zone to help the condition of the beneficiaries' mental health. School visit and home visit is being conducted periodically to ascertain the well-being and measuring of the children's academic performance in their respective school. That is the report from the South-South zone. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Imabong. Lastly, we want to go to the final zone, that is from the North Central, and then Mr. Maji will be taking us through the reports. Mr. Maji, are you there?
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, good evening. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon to you all. I am Simon Peter Maji, the zonal coordinator for North Central Nigeria. The North Central Nigeria comprises of 7 states of Benue, Kogi, Kwara, Nasarawa, Niger, Plateau, and FCT, the Federal Capital Territory. In the reporting period, which is July 22 to June 2023, Rose of Sharon Foundation has a total of 44 widows and 29 orphan beneficiaries currently enrolled and registered for support from across the 7 states that we have mentioned. Among the activities implemented were skill acquisition for widows, home visit, business follow-up, advocacy visit, school visit, and monitoring and evaluation of project activities. We have so many activities that have been conducted, but we'll summarize, and here are the key highlights of these activities. Widows skill acquisition training, a semi-annual capacity building and skill acquisition program, which was held within the reporting period with over 88 participants in different skills. The participants were empowered with vocational skills, which enabled them to become financially independent. To achieve the vision of Rose of Sharon Foundation for financial independence for widows in the North Central Nigeria, the Rose of Sharon Foundation conducted skill acquisition training on liquid soap making and Vaseline production for different beneficiaries in the zone. The purpose of this program was to train the beneficiary to increase their income stream and be self-reliant. 47 widows were successfully trained in Vaseline production across the 4 states of Benue, Kogi, Nasarawa, and Plateau states, and concurrently, 41 widows were also trained in liquid soap making in 2 states of Kwara and Niger state, respectively. Home visit and business follow-up. During this reporting period, that is July 2022 to June 2023, the zonal coordinators and community volunteers visited the homes of all beneficiaries in the zone. This is to ascertain and ensure the general well-being of our beneficiaries across the zone, which include Benue, Kwara, Kogi, Nasarawa, Niger, Plateau, and FCT Abuja. During this visit, psychosocial support is given, and mentorship on how to grow their businesses is also given. Sensitization on simple hygiene practices is as well given, and of course, financial literacy and good parenting skills are taught by the coordinators of this zone. Advocacy visit is our other activities, which the zonal coordinators conducted within the reporting period. And some of the organizations visited were Nana College of Health, Science, and Technology in Ayingba, Kogi State, Niger State Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development, and the Federation of Muslim Women Association of Niger State, Kwara State Chapter. The purpose of this visit was to seek partnership and collaboration for the good of our beneficiaries. School visit is also another activity we carried out. This is an avenue used by the foundation to assess the standard of the school that our children attend, monitor the performance of our beneficiaries, and collect school bills of our beneficiaries for prompt payment by the foundation. We are also happy to tell you that our beneficiaries have been doing exploits in their various schools and respective classes and level. That is why we could not but to tell you that in the zone we have 6 undergraduate students in various fields of studies. The beneficiaries are awaiting admission, and 1 orphan already graduated from vocational training, and 5 are currently writing their SSC examination. And these are other summary of our key achievements which include 5 established and functional saving groups across the zone. In order to inculcate the saving habit in our beneficiaries across the zone, we establish and form saving group for them, which by God's grace, they have shared out in 3 consecutive times, which is 3 cycles successfully. And also 6 undergraduate students in various fields of studies in across the zone. That is who we are currently having, and also have 6 beneficiaries awaiting admission in higher institutions. Thank God for our founder, our Mommy Alakija, and he has given the beneficiaries all across the state end of the year Christmas gift to every one of them, and they have not recovered from that joy in them. It went away currently, and most recently in March this year, food items were distributed to all our widows in the zone, amounted to over 400,000 and still counting. 88 participants were successfully trained in different skills within the reporting period. And of course, 98% successfully visit the homes and school of the beneficiaries across the zone. And we thank our Mommy Alakija for this noble work that you have been doing. Our beneficiary rejoice with the Rose of Sharon Foundation at 15. Congratulations and happy anniversary for me, Simon Peter Maji, Zonal Coordinator, North Central Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that beautiful report. This will bring us to the end of this wonderful webinar and celebration of International Widows Day and the 15th anniversary of the Rose of Sharon Foundation. I want to thank you for staying through with us since we started about 11:45. I want to believe that you have learned 1 or 2 things that is going to help you to support the widows in your community, in your office, in your family. So thank you so much. We want to wish all the widows happy celebration. Please go ahead and celebrate yourself and your children. Today is your day. Thank you so much. So I want to pray that God bless all the widows in Nigeria and across the globe. God bless the orphans. God bless the Rose of Sharon Foundation, and God bless Nigeria. Thank you so much from the Rose of Sharon Foundation. Stay well and God bless you. Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. We appreciate. Thank you.